great to be here. This is the first Cocktails and Conversations event of our new season, so we're really looking forward to this. Thank you for hosting us. And I think, tonight, for those of you who are looking at starting up your own business, I think you'll find Jane's remarks very purposeful tonight. And Jane's going to share her story and her career, and those of you who are looking to start your own venture, I'm sure will be able to learn from her. But before we start, I'm just going to do a little commercial for New York Wiki. And how many here are members of New York Wiki? Great. Well, it's great to have you all. And for those of you who aren't, we hope you will take a really good look at joining our organization. It really is great. We do a lot of events like this, and I think you'll find the members here very good if you're in communications, and a lot of like-minded women, and I think we get a lot out of sharing each other's experiences on this ever-changing world. So I really hope you'll look for people with name tags on if you want to hear more about the organization. And we have some great events coming up next month on October 9th. We're going to be hosting a discussion at the New York Times on women in politics 2012 and beyond. And this will be about how women will affect the coverage and outcome of this year's election. So if you've been to the website lately, we're really pushing the women's vote, and it's really important for all of us to get out and vote in this election. So hopefully you'll come to that. And please go to the NewYorkWiki.com website, and you'll see more of our events that we've got coming up. So I think now I'd like to bring up Jane Berwin, the founder and owner of this location. And I was telling Jane earlier, I love her remarks. I've been a long time user of your product, and it's great. So if you haven't bought anything, I'm sure you did before you buy it. So let's see, in January 2011, Jane launched Join Fight, a global initiative for women's entrepreneurship. And the Fight in Join Fight stands for Financial Independence Through Entrepreneurship, and along with micro-lending organization Kiva.org, Join Fight has helped fund loans for more than 25,000 female entrepreneurs worldwide. And we'll hear from Effia, who's one of the loan recipients tonight during the program.
Pleasure, welcome to all of you. I was just thinking there can hardly be a more intimidating group when you think you're going to come and speak to the New York women in communications. Now, when I was growing up in a small town in the south coast of England, that probably would have been enough to sort of send me into a complete fear frenzy. But it's a pleasure to be here. And because I've spent my life working with women, it's rare that I'm scared by them. Although I think people should probably be very afraid of all of us. There's no things to be reckoned with. I spent my whole life in the skincare industry. I am a skin therapist, which is, somebody coined the word a couple of weeks ago. They said to me, Dermalogica has its own lingo. I'm looking at my Dermalogica team, and they said to me, it's like Dermalingo, which I love that name. I think I'm just going to steal it and say, we thought of that. Dermalingo is when Dermalogica uses a word that describes what we do. We say skin therapist, we don't say esthetician. We don't use the B word, which is the beauty word. We use skin health. We talk about wellness, strength, fitness. We don't talk about pampering, luxury, or indulgence. Because for us, that's just not descriptive of what it is that we do and what we're excited about. What we're excited about is empowerment for our clients and women that come to us, not just for their skin, but also empowerment for the 30,000 skincare salons that use our product in 86 countries around the world. So one thing I've learned from spending my life in the industry is that every woman, and probably, of course, every man as well, has an amazing story. And every single one of you has an incredible story. And a story that if we had the time, and I wish we did, to share each of our stories, there would be so much that we had in common, even though every one of us grew up somewhere completely different, in completely different circumstances, in completely different families, all types of families, and in completely different eras, perhaps. But there is a unification, and I know you know this, as women in communication, as women in the skincare tribe, another Duolingo word, that there's just so much that we have in common. And if we had time to share our stories, we'd be able to pick out those pieces that we go, oh, that's so crazy, I understand that, or I feel the same way as that. And one of the great things about Dermalogica is it's just a big fat excuse, really. I mean, I think the products are amazing, of course I do, you wouldn't want me to say anything else. But it's a big fat excuse, really, to just have lots of conversations with women, touch women, literally with the power of human touch, and have an amazing and an incredible opportunity to help women in their own businesses. So I wish I had time to know all of your stories, but I don't. But I can tell you my story, because I know that in my story, yours is as well. So you can hear, I think, that I'm not from the States, I'm from the United Kingdom. Although I've lived in Los Angeles for 27 years, which a well-known person who I won't name, but said to me, how can you live there for 27 years? But I love LA. And as long as you don't ever take LA too seriously, it's absolutely fine. When people come and take it seriously and get all, into it, you'll feel so unreal and it doesn't feel what it's LA. So it's not all, it's not serious all the time. There's no fun with it too. So I've lived there for 27 years, but I certainly am not from there, and I'm not from the States. And I came here, I emigrated in 1983 for a really simple reason. I came to pursue the American dream. And I still believe that more dreams come true in America than any other country in the world. And my story started, I guess I was born. But my upbringing was unusual, and at the time, I didn't realise it was going to be so critically necessary for the life I was going to live. And there's a phrase that you're given the childhood you need to equip you for the life you're going to lead. And I think that's really hard sometimes to accept, especially if you've had a challenging childhood, but I do think it's true. And so I am the youngest of 4 girls. I have 3 older sisters, and we're very close. And I grew up in Scotland, even though my accent is in English. But at 2 years old, my father died. My mother was widowed at 38 years old, with 4 girls to raise. It was 1961. She had worked since she married my father in 1944. And what is amazing about that story, she qualified as a nurse, but at that stage, nurses, and in fact teachers, and up until the late 1960s, if you married, you were required to give up your job. Because you were required to give up your job, so a single woman who clearly needed the work, and you clearly didn't if you were married, because you were now going to be taken care of, you gave up your job. Which seems insane to me now, but that was accepted, and that was pretty typical. But in any event, she likely would have done that because it was 1944, it was that time, and she wanted to start a family, and she did. My sister was born in like 1945, and so 4 children occurred. She hadn't worked since 1945, and suddenly in the course of a weekend, she was widowed, completely unexpectedly. My father had a massive coronary, passed away, with no mortgage insurance even for the house that they had recently moved into. He also died without a will, and the other crazy thing about that was in Scotland at that time, it took a year to release any of his, they didn't have a lot of money, but release anything, because for 1 year, they had to advertise in the local papers to see if he had any male children. Even if they were illegitimate, they would have taken precedence over inheriting any property or any money. Sounds like Jane Austen. Then marrying off those daughters, now we understand why. So, my mother was widowed suddenly, and she had to start working. She had to put money on the table. She had to put food on the table. So what did she do? She called up a friend who she'd done a training with, Pat, who was the matron of the Western General Hospital in Edinburgh, and said, Pat, I don't know if you heard what happened. I need a job. And Pat said, good woman friend that she was, of course, how much can you give me? How many hours can you give me? What can you do? And my mum said, Jane's only 2. I wasn't at school, there was no daycare, she had no support system, her family didn't even live in the same country. And she said, I can do the night shift. And so my mother worked from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. She worked every night that she could. And my older sisters would get up at about 7 o'clock. School started at 9:30 in Scotland then. My mum would get about an hour and a half sleep. They went off to school. She got up, took care of me all day, and then when my sisters came home in the afternoon at 4 o'clock, she got another couple of hours sleep and went to work at 7. And my mum cobbled together a patchwork quilt of care. And I had an amazing childhood. I never for one second thought I wasn't loved. I never for one second thought that I didn't have the best family in the world. And my mum was our role model. And one thing she drummed into my sisters and myself, she said, girls, it's not just about an education. I want you to learn how to do something that is transportable, that no matter where you end up, you will always be able to be financially independent. Because where would I be if I hadn't had my nurse's training? And it just was cemented in our brains. And so my 2 older sisters went into nursing, like my mum, and one is still in nursing. And my 3rd sister down became a lab technician, and I came into the skincare industry by chance. At 13 years old, I needed pocket money. There was no extra money in our house to go around. And so I went to the local hair salon, walked in my school uniform, and said, do you have a job for a Saturday girl? Which is what we were called. You had to be 15 and a half to work a full day, but I heard a rumour that hairdressing salons would employ you illegally. Which I actually have to tell you, I think is probably still true today. Thank goodness. Okay. So I walked in, and it was like a stellar moment, because I walked in and there was this rather intimidating blonde behind the desk. And I walked in, and her name was Goldie. However, I walked in, and I said, in my school uniform, hello, I just came in to ask if you might be hiring Saturday girls. And she said to me, how old are you? I didn't want to lie, because I thought she might call my mum. So I said, I'm 13, and I'm really good at laundry, and I know how to make coffees and teas, and I'll do anything that you want me to. I just need a job. And she said, this is what made me laugh. She looked at me, she said, do you have any experience? There was like 6-year-olds back there doing laundry. I said, no, but I work really hard. And she said, all right, start on Saturday. Thank goodness for Goldie, because she gave me the biggest career break of my life. I wasn't old enough to be seen in the salon. I had to be kept in the back room. And my job was doing laundry, folding towels, cleaning wax, cleaning out the tint bowls for hairdressers, washing all the perm rods, going to get lunch for the stylists, going to get the stylists laundry, getting their prescriptions. Quite a lot of prescriptions going on. And I was in the staff room, and the stylists and the juniors would come flying through the door, and it was I kept getting these snatches of conversations. And it was so exciting, there was so much drama. People had had fallings out during the week that I'd been at school, and I thought it was the most glamorous, exciting place I'd ever been in my life. And it was. And at 15 and a half, because I was able to be seen, I got promoted to shampoo girl, which trust me is a huge career advancement. Because not only do you get to work with clients, you get access to tips.
Oh, yes.
And if you have ever survived on tips, I don't know how many of you have, But if you have, I know you are big tippers.
Yes.
Because you know that tip makes a difference as to whether you're going to, have your milk for your tea that week, or cigarettes if you smoke, or whatever else you might do, or even just, pick up some food for a takeout on the way. So, I launched into this industry in that really simple way. And when I left high school, I went straight to beauty school. And I used the B word purposely because it was a beauty school. And I got my training, and the work ethic was set high. It was a 2-year full-time training with an apprenticeship. I'm still a huge fan of apprenticeship programs. I wish we had more of them. And I'm a huge fan of a skill set training that teaches you how to do something that you can put food on the table and be financially independent. So I worked as a junior therapist, a senior therapist. I got my teaching credential, and had an amazing career in the industry. And I wanted to pursue the American dream. In 1983, I emigrated to the States with my boyfriend, now my husband. We've been married for 22 years, which is a long time, especially in Los Angeles. And we started the business together. He's a brilliant marketer. I am, as I already shared with you, a skin therapist. And in 1983, we decided we were going to come to the States and start working. The intention was not to start our own business right away, it was to work. But I think it was Reagan's second term, it was a 10.4% unemployment in California. No one was hiring. I had no network, I had no clients, I had no contacts. No one was looking to hire anybody. So, as is true of many entrepreneurs, you're pushed into becoming an entrepreneur because you're sort of unemployable. And now I'm completely unemployable because I wouldn't know what to do other than what I already do. So we decided, and I've learned this and I use it as a mantra, if you can see the greatest pain in an industry, you've just seen the greatest opportunity. In other words, if you can spot where it hurts, that's where there's an opportunity. So you have to know that industry. So I'm never surprised that entrepreneurs are often born from an industry that they're very familiar with. So many baby products come as a result of women having babies and realizing, oh my goodness, why is there not a baby changing station in the restaurant, like koala care? There's drop-down changing tables. That happened because a woman was sick of changing her baby on the floor of a public restaurant. So you get those moments where you go, wait, why has no one done this before? And you think, I think that could be a great business idea or a great product. And then, for goodness sake, don't listen to most people who will say to you, if it's such a good idea, how come no one's done that before? Your answer has to be, because no one's done it before. That's actually the answer. So you can't let those fear-mongering tapes that we all have in our heads, I think especially as women, I have to just say, that maybe you can't do it, or I don't know, you don't have the experience, or maybe you're not bright enough or educated enough, or have enough money, or whatever the thing is that is in that tape in our head that somebody recorded there when maybe we don't remember who it was, but the slightest amount of stress sometimes you press this play and you're like, oh my goodness. You can't erase that tape. Well, maybe you can with years of therapy, but I think with the other still it isn't working. So you can't erase that tape, but you can hit the mute button. So with all of that going on, we're in California, and I decided, well, I've got to, get a job, and I'm going job hunting. And the first thing that occurred to me was I was looking for skincare salons to work in. Very few. And this is crazy. Why are there no skincare salons? There's full service salons, there's hair salons, but there was no day spa. It was way before that. There was no skincare center. And what I realized was then, there's only 7 states out of the 50 that have a skincare license. Only 7 states out of the 50 in 1983 could you even do what I had been trained to do. I didn't do hair, I did skin. So I thought, that's odd. Why is there not more training? That doesn't make sense. Maybe I'm missing something. Anyway, I started my quest to get a job, and I went to the salons I could find. It was Ida Gray, Ida Tibion, Georgia Klinger, Christy Balmain, all European owned, all owned by Eastern Europeans, French, who thought, that's odd. How come there's no American skin salons? And when I went and I kind of got in the door to get somewhat of an interview, I was greeted at the front desk by Americans, and the people that were selling the products tended to be American. But the people in the treatment rooms at the back were all European. So I said to Ida de Bion, who owned a spa in Beverly Hills, she's since retired, she's a lovely woman, and I said to her, she liked to be called Madame. I said, I'm curious, Madame, because I've not met any Americans working in the treatment rooms. And she said to me, it's really simple, Jane. There are no qualified Americans doing skincare. The training is terrible. I only hire Europeans. Put to me. But I left thinking, wait a minute. If there are no American therapists, but everyone here clearly has skin, and there's a lot more of it here than any place else I've ever been, there must be a huge opportunity to train people how to do what I do. And I have my teaching credential. And it was like a light bulb. And so I said to Raymond, who was then my boyfriend, now my husband, I said to him, I'm sharing the story, and he got a job selling skincare equipment, much like you see in the space here. And after a month, he said, no one is buying the equipment because no one has been trained how to use it. Bang! We said the opportunity is in education, is in training. If we can take people who do have the license and train them, bridge the gap between this basic education, which was a 600-hour, 4-month training, and bridge between that and a 2-year full-time training, which is typical in other parts of the world, and teach those skin therapists how to be successful, not just with technique, but how to run their business, we have an opportunity to be successful in a training capacity. Really simple, and every part of the story could be very, very long, but I called the State Board of Cosmetology in Sacramento, California. I didn't know enough not to do it, and this is also a big thing. I'm really a big fan of being quite naive, because if you know too much, you'll scare yourself out of doing it. So one of my lessons is you can't know too much to try it, because otherwise if you know too much, oh, that's ridiculous. Because somebody said to me now, how easy is it to start your own skincare line? You say, well, impossible. It's not. Anyone could do it right now. Well, maybe not anyone, because I don't want competition. Definitely not you over there. But no, I didn't know enough. So I thought, well, how am I going to get people to come to classes? Well, if there's a license, there must be a list. Before the internet, remember, we're 1983. So I called the State Board of Cosmetology in Sacramento, spoke to a woman who I've never forgotten, her name was Delphine Cathcart. And I called her up, she became my best friend. And I said, what I was doing, and I wanted to do advanced training, and is there a list of licensed estheticians? Because I want to send them a postcard saying what I'm doing and inviting them to a free class. And I knew how to build a clientele, because I'd done that in a salon, so I figured it's kind of the same way as you build a clientele. Delphine said to me, there is a list, but I don't know that we give it out to people. And I said, well, really, because it's the public record, isn't it? So shouldn't I be able to access it? I mean, I'll even come there, I didn't know where Sacramento was, I'll even come there and write it down. How many names are on the list? And she said, 5,000. Called her back 2 days later, and she said, okay, I did some asking, yes, we can sell the list for $25. Would you like it on Avery labels? And I said, yes, please. And I sent a bank check for $25, and she sent me the entire list of the state of California on Avery labels. Very happy. Never forgotten Delphine.
Of course.
So I mailed out that mailing. I invited the licensed therapist to come to class. I had an incredible response. And I took a 1-room, 1,000 square foot skincare space next to the Social Security office in Marina Del Rey, nothing on application. It was a walking distance from my 1-bedroom flat. I didn't have a car. So, which is unheard of in LA. And I began training these therapists how to run their business more successfully. And they came back and said, you know what you said to me worked. And it grew through word of mouth organically. We bootstrapped it up. And when we were 2 years into it, and we started the company on $14,000 that we sold a third share in a holiday home for, put it together, we had no money lent to us, we gave away no equity, and we never have. We've never taken a bank loan, we've never given away equity, we still own the company 100%. We bootstrapped it up by reinvesting. The great thing about our industry is it's a COD business. The beauty industry is a cash on delivery business, cash flow is not an issue. That's probably one of the best kept secrets in our industry. However, 3 years into it, my students would say, what product should we use? Jane, what product should we use in the treatment? So I said, well, what product are you using right now? And they told me the names of French products, Italian products, German products. And I said, well, why not using an American product? And they said, well, which one? And I thought, this is odd, because Lauder, for example, they dominated the retail arena. Professional hair products dominated the professional arena, Redken, Aveda, Matrix, Paul Mitchell. But the skincare arena, not one American product being distributed widely beyond somebody who had it for their own centre, like Balmain, Deviance, but none of them distributed their products outside of their own centres. There was the light bulb moment. So we said, oh my goodness, if we could put together a product. Ray was a brilliant marketer. Raymond said to me, do you know what product you want to develop? And I'm not a chemist. I said, absolutely, I can describe it, I can see it. I know the kind of product I want. It has to be an American personality. It has to have a name that feels pharmaceutical, cosmetic, a cosmeceutical name. It's not about pampering and luxury. It's got to be efficient. It's got to give results. And I know from my students we've got a market that will take it. And in 9 months, we put together 27 formulas. And again, I could tell I spent a whole evening on how we found a chemist, but in any event, we did. And we worked out a very intricate, paying him over a 2-year period based on not sales, but based on what we ordered in raw materials, which meant if we weren't making any, he wasn't getting paid. And we put together a contract so that because we had no money to pay him up front. And in 9 months, we had 27 products. We launched at a trade show in Los Angeles, and we wanted to open 15 accounts in the 3 days of the show. We had an opening order of $1,500, which was incredibly cheeky because nobody really knew us. But we wanted a commitment from every salon that took us to come to education, take the whole line, and become part of what we started calling a tribe, before Seth Rogen started talking about tribes. So I kept visualizing 15 in 3 days, 15 accounts in 3 days, 15 in 3, 15 in 3, 15 in 3. I'm a big fan of visualization. Everyone don't want to knows that. So I kept seeing 15 in 3. We did not open 15 accounts in 3 days. We opened 15 accounts in 3 hours. And we did $1 million in our first year. It was the most exciting year of our whole business. Because I can't tell you, we were astonished. We were screaming. Every time an order would come in, we were lit up. Sheila Winslow was still our head of customer service. She was employee number 3. She used to do a jig. She used to do a dance. Go Sheila! We were insane. It was an amazing journey, and now fast forward 26 years later. We are the largest, the #1 professional brand in the industry. Every product is made here in the United States of America. We make everything in Southern California in 5 manufacturing facilities. We have over 100,000 students that we train every year in 40 training facilities. A little over 30,000 salons and spas use our product in 86 countries. And it's been an incredible journey. And so 2 years ago, we made a commitment to mark our 25th anniversary. What would we do to mark 25 years of an incredible success story? And we sat up on the table, and I read a book on David Ogilvy once from advertising, and he said when he would try and come up with an ad campaign, he would tell his team, let's get the good idea, and let's go for the great idea. So in other words, get the safe idea, the one that you can pitch to the client and they'll take it, then put it to one side because you haven't got to worry, we've got something to present. But now, let's go for the great idea. So we sat around the table and said, what will we do for 25 years? And we decided, well, we could do a candle. And I mean, no one's really very excited about that. But anyway, we could do it and it would be all right. And then we said, well, we could do a bit better than that. Maybe we could change the packaging for a year. Oh, that's quite a good idea. Change it for like a 25th anniversary year. So we all said, all right, that's good. Let's go away for the weekend and think about the great idea. And there is no such thing as a coincidence. A friend had gifted me the book Half the Sky by Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Woodham. And we went to Santa Barbara for the weekend. We have a holiday cottage there. And I started reading the book. And if you have read that book, and even if you haven't, let me tell you, it's an easy book to read. It's short, it's brief, it's a dozen chapters. It's the hardest book to read because every chapter, Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Woodham traveled the world and interviewed girls and women in countries around the world where they have been denied the opportunities that we take for granted. Well, I don't think we do take them for granted, but that we accept we will have. And every story is a real story of a real girl and a real woman and what they said about their story. And as I read these stories, I saw my story. And I saw the stories of women who had been widowed. So emotional, because I'm so emotionally connected to the stories of the women, because as I'm reading it, and I'm reading about women that were widowed, and I think that could have been my mum. This woman in the story can't leave her house to even go bake on the street, let alone buy groceries, because she has to be accompanied by a male family member, and she doesn't have any. That could have been my mum. And then I read the stories of the families that have no male family members and how disadvantaged the girls are. That would have been my sisters and I. And then I read the story of how women are denied an educational training because if a woman can't inherit property or even have their own bank account or get access to credit, why invest in them? Why educate them when they're just really going to cost money? Educate the boys because they can inherit. And I thought that would have been us. We wouldn't have been educated. My mom wouldn't have been a nurse. What would have happened to us? I read the stories of families in India, and their most valuable asset are the 7-year-old girls that they can sell into a brothel. And it's not because those families don't love their children. It's because you have to pick an option, and that's really about the only one. And they were real girls. And I thought of myself and my sisters, and I thought that would have been our value. And that story would have been my story. And I suddenly realized it was a geographic accident of birth that I was born in the UK and had the chance to come to the States and had the chance to go to B school. And then Goldie was behind the reception desk. It was a geographic accident of birth. Those girls and women are no less aspirational than we are. They want what we want. They have no less desire or passion or intelligence. They just have been denied the opportunity to use it. And so over that weekend in Santa Barbara, and I kept reading pieces out to Raymond, and he kept saying, what are you reading? Why is upsetting you so much? And I said, this is so important. You have to read this after me. As soon as I finish, you're reading it. And as I read the book, Nicholas Kristof calls out after this, I felt like I'd been through a roller coaster. What are you going to do about these girls and women now that you've read their stories? What will you do? And that sentence leapt off the page because he didn't say, what should government do? Or, it's terrible, we should legislate. What are you going to do? And I took it as if he had spoken to me directly and said, Jane, what are you going to do? And suddenly we come from this meeting of our 25th anniversary and the thousands of women and the stories, and I thought, we have a platform. We have an incredible industry. We put more women into their own business than any other industry. It doesn't hinge on a 4-year college degree. It hinges on learning how to do something to put food on the table. And I realized that childhood I'd experienced had really been the one I was meant to have. And I just lit up. And as I'm reading the book a bit further, a couple of pages in, Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Woodham say, here are 10 things you can do in the next 10 minutes to change a woman's life. Step number 1 was go on to kiva.org and lend $25. Lend, not give. It's a hand up, not a handout. that will be repaid. They have a 98.6% repayment rate. Women repay their loans. We do 66% of the work in the world. We grow 50% of the food. We earn 10% of the income, and we own 1% of the land. And as the book says, half the sky, it comes from a Chinese saying, which is women hold up half the sky, and men hold up the other half. And we need both of us at the table, whether it's the dinner table, or the boardroom table, or the conference table, or the government table, all voices need to be heard, boys and girls. And so within that weekend, and on Monday when I flew into Dermalogica and met with the creative team, literally with ragging, I said, we have to do something, we've got to meet with Kiva, we have to figure out how to put an initiative together, something where we can help empower, loan money. It's got to engage the products, it's got to engage the salons, all our therapists have to get on board. I'm totally lit up about it. We've got to get the message out there. And quicker than we put the product together, in 6 months, well, 2 weeks we were on a flight to San Francisco, in 6 months we met with Kiva, who are an incredible team of young people, men and women, and we put together the FIGHT initiative, financial independence through entrepreneurship. And we made a commitment to fund 25,000 women for our 25th anniversary, with $25 loans. And we will gather those $25 up and bundle them into loans that the recipients have requested. And the important part about the FIGHT initiative was that you would engage in the story of every woman who was a FIGHT loan recipient. You could direct where the loan went. We fund the loans through Dermalogica. We don't ask people to give any money. We've just now funded our 25,000th woman. Wow. We will fund 30,000 by the end of the year, I believe. And we also just put $100,000 into loans so that you can go on, and on the FIGHT website, you can direct one of those loans that we funded to a woman that you choose. I want you to read her story. I want you to know who she is, because that woman is our story. And 2 years ago, I came to New York and became a member of the Clinton Global Initiative, which is why I'm back here this year. And we made a commitment to President Clinton to fund those women, and I'm back this year to tell them that we did it. And to say that next year, we're not stopping. We are going to continue to fund those loans, because as they repay, we're lending them. And now we're going to fund loans for women's education in skill set training. Now, when we launched the FIGHT initiative, a lot of people assumed we would be funding women disadvantaged in those faraway countries that we see on the news that we may never have a chance to go to. But what people didn't realize is that there are women entrepreneurs who need a hand up right here in the States, right here in New York. And so, as I'm telling you my story, and I'm telling you about the stories that we read in the book, I thought it would be great this evening to tell another woman's story, one of our loan recipients from New York. And I'm really thrilled and honored to introduce you and to hear her story. Here. And have you hear a little bit about her story and the successful business that she has developed and grown, and what has motivated that business. And I'm just so excited to have the chance to have you to hear from her. So first of all, tell me what your business is. Tell everybody what your business is.
Hi everybody. My business the name is Smoochie Cosmetics, and it's a cosmetic line. And my vision is to, first of all, make everyone gorgeous, but at the same time, provide products that are for women of purpose. Women that have a fire in them that they want to share and build with other women. And these women know that they may have the skills, but they need the look. They know that they go hand in hand. And I really, like you said, give that excuse to share, to share and give. I completely understand that because that's what I do. And the first thing is to look in the heart and know that this person is something special about all of us. All of us has something to give, and it's just about staying focused. So many people tell me, your concept is so abstract, and my tagline is where beauty meets brains. And what I'm doing is I want to marry the woman that's assertive with the woman that is whole inside. And they say, oh no, you know what? It's either cold and superficial, or it's this nature woman running around, you know? So I said, yeah, like you said, finding that gap and being able to marry them two together. So there's so much that I want to do that I can't even stand it. Like I have visions all the time, and I'm just like, you know what, I need to like write it down and wake up and write it down. But I know this is not by accident. We talked about that.
No such thing as a coincidence. So what's great about Smoochie, first of all, I love the name. Isn't it great name, Smoochie? It's like it sounds. It's like an automatic name. It is what it sounds. It's a lip gloss line, which is great because we were talking, I mean, everybody needs a lip gloss. And you can wear lip gloss really at any time. Going to the gym, anywhere. Yeah, love it. Yeah, that is. So I love that it's a lip gloss line. I like that it's tight and well edited and great product, which is critically important. There's lots of lip gloss lines out there. We all think our product is the best product. But on top of having a great product, there was a motivation for you to start with line, wasn't there? What was the motivation?
There's several things, but I'll narrow it down for time. But one, this happened around 2002-03, and my brother, he's a fallen officer of 9/11, and and you know, we just had the 11th year, and I always wanted to give and share something that I had. I have a talent and a gift. And I know my brother right now is looking down on me and like, I'm so proud of you, and I'm just so, as an entrepreneur, you know you fight, you have a lot of things against you. You have a lot of things, especially as a woman, period. And to still believe that you can do it, no matter what anybody says, takes a lot of courage. And you have to encourage yourself constantly. Even if like we're all in this room, we have to encourage each other, but there's a lot of times where you are alone and have no one else but yourself. And my little beautiful daughter, she's 4 years old. Her name is Brooke, and I can see her right now, probably in one of my lip glosses right now as we speak. But she is definitely what keeps me going. Definitely. Even when I want to get up, I know at 6 in the morning she's going to come to wake me up and say, "Mommy, I need this and I need that." But how do you maintain? Like you want to always be able to provide for your children. And I didn't come from money, but I always had ideas. I always had dreams. I always had, let's do it, let's go. There was no such thing to me as can't. Never. I still to this day, we can always do it. Change the vocabulary. And I just feel like right now, if I were to stop dreaming, I would be married.
You will. And you're raising Brooke on your own, I know. And
Yes.
that was one of our parallel stories.
Yes, single parent, and it's tough. Being a single parent, I'm in school, working, so much is going on, but the thing is to stay organized and focused on what it is you want to do.
Exactly. And now, when you were growing your business and you applied for your FIGHT loan, tell me a little bit about what you applied. Why did you apply for the loan, and what have you done with the loan?
Well, the obvious is I need money, but at the same time, I applied because I needed a computer. Everything is, you need a computer for everything. And not only, I'm a single parent, I can't be everywhere. I needed something that I was, when my daughter goes to sleep, I could do my research, and be able to hit more than one store, a virtual place at a time. I use the money for the computer and also to redesign my website, which is very important because if you don't have a store presence, physically you need to have a killer website.
The new website looks amazing. What were some of the challenges when you were growing your business, and what was maybe the biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge, I gotta say, they go hand in hand, is fear and doubt. Fear and doubt, even to this day, I still kind of like fight it. Not that I can't do it, it just creeps in.
Yeah. I've got a bit of a rule about that too, which is whenever it's 2 or 3 in the morning, like middle of the night, do not allow yourself to think about anything. It will terrify you. It's better in the morning. I don't want to hear it. You get up in the morning, you think, oh, I feel so much better. I was like half terrorized in the night. Just don't. When you wake up, and you know you do, and it's 3 o'clock, just whatever it is, just say, no, I can't think about it. Because it will just feel different in the morning. It's like yin yang, the night is dark. Exactly.
Yeah, so I gotta say that
So
is.
your own fear was really the greatest challenge.
Yes, and at the same time, you know that you are doing something that is going to help impact so many people on a scale that you can't even imagine.
Right.
Especially when you're passionate about it and when you want to do it, and you want to give, that desire is there. And I think that's what helps me to continue. Because it's not just about me.
Well, you give back a lot. I mean, never mind that you must have a pretty full plate as it goes. You give back a lot to women too, because you have a special interest.
Yes, which is the women of domestic violence that have been abused. And when I say abused, I don't mean just physically. We have emotional, verbal abuse. It's all types sexual abuse, all types that women may not express. As a skincare therapist, there's a lot of times I'm in the room and I'll just start working, and then all of a sudden they just stop. And you know what they say? I can't believe I'm telling you all this. It's the first thing that they say to me.
It's one of the things you learn as a skin therapist, and you also learn that when you're literally physically touching someone,
Yes.
there's a kindness in your intention that people just, it's being touched. There's something so powerful about it. It's such a rare thing. We all talk about being connected, and we're so connected.
Yes.
But that simple connection of human touch is incredibly powerful.
Absolutely, and I touch all the time, so. I know.
I know, I think I said that people aren't in our tribe.
Yes.
That's how you
I know, right, exactly.
They just get the program.
Right.
And so I want to know your wish, because I want to help with your visualization too. What's your wish list for Smoochie?
My wish list.
And don't write the script too small. Remember, we're only limited by the size of the script we write, so write it big.
Yes.
Okay.
I want Smoochie to have its own standing store. I want it to be in several countries.
Yeah.
I want everyone to be wearing it.
Exactly.
And I just want to continue to build and find solutions that's going to help the unique woman.
So we need distribution.
Yes, distribution, definitely.
And get the message out there.
And getting it out there. I mean, I can't do this all on my own. That's not what
I would like to it was a pleasure to know your story, to have seen your journey, and I'm so excited for what it's going to become, and to know that you are a role model for a lot of other women. And it doesn't matter whether it's lip gloss or whether it's, whatever the business is, it really doesn't matter. That's the vehicle for us to be able to channel our talents. So I'm wondering if there are any questions that we could ask, or any information that we could share that maybe you have a question about. Okay. Anything else that you wanted to share?
I just want to share that with you all to don't give up. And this is so cliche. Like certain things I'm like, this is so cliche, but it is the truth. It is so true. If you know what you want, and in spite of anything that's going on around you, just continue to push. I mean, I can't, like you said, we all night about, start talking about nights, cold nights, lights cut off, this, that, everything going on, but you still believe it. It's, I can't even put it into words. When you believe it so bad and you want it so bad, and you know, when you do feel that way, people come along because they see the consistency.
You're attracting people that you need to, just want to recognize them.
Yeah, I had a question. What's your website so we can all go?
That's right. It's smoochie.com. You can spell it SMUCCI.com.
So www.smoochie.com.
Yes.
I also would encourage you to go to the Joint Fight website and read the stories of the 25,000 women who have already been funded. Like Effia, the story, each story is amazing. And don't forget also to watch the PBS special on Half the Sky, which is airing later this month.
I was going to say when you said about the loan, when they paid back the loan, I was so, when they granted me the loan, I said, when do you want me to start repaying? Because I was so happy to give a chance that I had no problem being able to pay my payments on time.
Yeah, exactly. And that money then gets repaid, and has now been relent already out to another woman. It's just keeps going around. I also want to thank every one of you for being here tonight. And I want to give a special thank you to New York because my baby, my eldest daughter, just relocated here. She's sitting over there. She just came straight from the class at Tisch at NYU. And we're really proud and thrilled for you, Molly. New York has you now. Don't forget your West Coast roots, but it gives me a wonderful excuse to come back to a city that I love too. So thank you. Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more about the Clinton Global Initiative
Yeah.
and your involvement in that and what that's about.
The Clinton, they have a great website as well, the Clinton Global Initiative. When President Clinton finished his presidency, he had a foundation and he wanted to make a difference. And he developed with a great team an idea that because of his connections, obviously, and his stature and the fact that people, you know, he could gather people, he has a great ability to gather people to a common kind of cause, that he could put together a platform where corporations would partner with a non-profit, with an NGO, to put together an initiative that would make a difference in the world. And basically what it is you make what they call a commitment, and it does require a partnership. In other words, you have to be collaborative. You can't just step forward and you could be a big corporation and say, well, we just want to do this on our own and kind of own it. No, it has to be a collaboration because he believes, and I think probably a lot of us do, that collaborative work is where you learn the most and you get to share the most and it's the strongest. And so it's a non-profit with a corporation, and generally then you ask through the Clinton Global Initiative other members who might want to partner with you, and it could be a government agency, it could be somebody that could help you if you need legislative work done, it could be somebody that wants to help fund it, whatever it might be. You look in the membership for other partners that could help you achieve your commitment. You have to physically write the commitment. It's quite a difficult process because they want it structured a certain way. You have to say what the deliverables are going to be. It's like launching a business. And you have to report back on a quarterly basis as to what your progress is and how well you're doing towards achieving the goal. And there's a lot of support and encouragement amongst the membership to do that. And there have been huge initiatives made on clean water, for example. Procter & Gamble have made big initiatives, Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola, and you can imagine the size and scale, right down to very small initiatives. There was an initiative, a commitment that was launched a couple of years ago in South Africa, in the Eastern Cape, which was basically to take a 10-kilometer radius in a very small park, but the hardest hit with HIV/AIDS, and make sure that every one of the children in that radius, even though it was small, got through school and was supported. And that's an amazing initiative. It's very small, very grassroots. And so it doesn't even have to be scalable. And so that there's lots on the website, and you can read about the commitments and the kind of partners that are involved in it. It's a 3-day program. It starts on Sunday at noon and it finishes on Tuesday afternoon this year, and it usually runs in tandem with the UN, and people kind of come over from the UN. Amazing roster of speakers. President Obama is going to be there this year. Mitt Romney is going to be speaking on the last day. Quite brave. So, given the crowd. And Secretary of State Clinton and Chelsea Clinton's cherry for the thing, Tina Brown. It's just an incredible roster of amazing people. And everyone is there for the same reason. They are doers and they want to do something. And that's really what it's about. So, yeah.
Well, I want to just thank you both because very inspiring stories.
Fantastic. So we'll get a distribution. Yes. I'm going to make school to alter it.
All right, well, thank you, and I think the wine bar is still open.
Yes.
The wine bar and the skin
And we have a
bar.
goodie bag for you with Dermalogica, a product to Dermalogica product, and one of Effie's fabulous Gucci lip glossies.